Perfect. Excellent. I will go ahead and give Facebook a second to alert people. It looks like we're having a couple of folks that are hopping on here with us. Good morning, and thank you for tuning in on another week with us on our live broadcasts. As you are hopping on, please let me know who you are by giving us a thumbs up or just sharing a couple of comments in the comment section of this broadcast. I see with us Parker Brown. Good morning to you. Thank you for sharing some nice positivity to both the mayor and myself. I'll go ahead and get us kick-started. I'm Juliet. Kicked off and started. That was kick-started for those of you that were curious what that word was. I'm Juliet Abdel, President and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce, and I am excited to continue bringing to you live broadcasts on a daily basis. I feel like they give some sort of a structure and continuity for us, especially as the days seem to just quickly pass by. We're already into October and holidays are right around the corner. So I'd like to ask you, if this is your first time hopping on here with us, that you hit the like button and hit the follow so you can stay informed on everything we're doing outside of these live broadcasts. If you're returning with us, then welcome back, and thank you for tuning in, for sharing out our message to your audience as well, and being informed about everything that's going on in our community, in our state, and of course, learning things that can help your business move forward. Good morning to you, Tina Silver. I see you on this broadcast as well. I also see Councilor Bowles on here with us. Thank you both for hopping on this morning. Now, as you all are aware, the video section is available to you at any point in time to get caught up on any videos that you may have missed. If it's your very first time tuning in with us, then you'll find a plethora of videos dating back into March, helping your business adapt to the present situation that you're in, all the way to resources that are available and ways that we have actively tried to support our business and the overall community. We're streaming this at the very same time on our YouTube channel, that's Westminster Chamber of Commerce. And of course, we're available to you on all of our social media platforms. So please engage with us on Twitter and Instagram at Westy Chamber. Anytime you tag us or mention us, we do engage with you on a higher level on that as well. So today's broadcast, as you all are aware, we kick off with the mayor. The mayor gives us a nice overview of what's going on, even though some of the comments may not be as positive, but it gives us an idea about what's going on in the community. And so this is the time for you to kind of absorb what's happening, to ask us any questions or make any comments known that maybe come to mind. And of course, as you're watching this, if you gain some of the information you think it might be valuable to somebody in your network, please be sure to hit that share button as well. We like to be engaging with you, and the only way that we can do that is if you're actively commenting and posting on this video in the comment section of the broadcast. With that, Mayor Atchison, I'll go ahead and mute myself and have you take it away with some of the updates.
All right. Thanks, Juliet. Good morning. This starts to remind me of the old days of the Peanut cartoon characters, where this little character in there always had a little black cloud over his head. And every time the comes up, I think of that stupid cloud hanging over my head. One of the things we want to talk a little bit about is the Westy Rise Restaurant and Food Security Program. Now, it's designed to simultaneously address food insecurity and supports a number of our local restaurants. The city continues to see an increase in residents who are classified as food insecure, while traditional safety nets like school feeding programs and food banks are struggling to meet the demand. At the same time, the city's restaurant industry is facing an unprecedented challenge as well. You know, many of our restaurants are back open, but at reduced rates. And many of them have also indicated they can do this reduced rate for a period of time, but it can't be forever. Otherwise, they could end up having to close back down. And through this Westy Rise restaurant program, the city has formed a partnership with the Senior Hub to provide meals for up to 135 Westminster adults per day. In addition, the Senior Hub is coordinating a weekly Westminster Market Night where up to 600 food boxes, which include fresh vegetables, bread, and dairy products, will be distributed weekly. Also included in each of the food boxes will be a $35 gift certificate to a Westminster restaurant. The distribution will be made out of the City Park Rec Center. Now, the Westy Rise Restaurant and Food Security Program is funded by CARES Act dollars and will be funded right now through the middle of December of this year. So we want to continue to push that. Now, this morning, unfortunately, as normal, we talk about the COVID updates. And we have two very different reports. I'm going to talk about Jefferson County first. And I have a chart that I have here I'm looking at that was released by Jefferson County on Friday, and it gives us some numbers of where their infection rates appear to be coming from. The largest number, which is 77 of the cases that they looked at, are coming from communal acquired spread. That's people being out in the public. The next one is households. You're getting it from people at your home or where you're going to other people's houses. A lot of it in social gathering is our next big number. Workplace. And some of the things that's interesting is we're not seeing it come back from the schools. The schools are really doing pretty well when you look at it. According to what Jefferson County gave us this past week, of the almost 700 confirmed and probable cases we have seen since September the 1st, the majority that we know about had family or household exposures to confirmed cases. However, we do not have the data on about half of our cases because they are either currently being investigated or were transferred to CDPHE's investigation team, and that data has not been back. 350 cases were transferred to CDPHE. There were several cases that indicated workplace exposure, but many of the K through 12 students in the system actually indicated contact with possible household members rather than school closures or school exposures. So if you look this morning, our infection rate for Jefferson County was at 112. The positivity rate was 2.3. Now, that's still not bad. That's in the middle section of our safer at home category, but it is still above the level that would allow us to apply for protect our neighbors. So we still have work to do on the Jeffco side. More disturbing is what we see from Tri-County. Now, these numbers I am going to give you, I confirmed myself an hour ago. So these are very current numbers. On September the 24th, we reported that the infection rate was at 153. 4 days later, we were at 200. And on October the 1st, we were at 223. This morning, we are at 259.5. And our positivity rate from September the 24th to this morning went from 5.3 to 7.0. And our mask compliance is back down to 76. Now, on the new state chart, this moves us up to level 3 in the safer at home grade. This now requires Tri-County to develop a mitigation plan for getting the numbers reduced. Tri-County had a meeting scheduled with CDPHE this past Friday to start working out the mitigation plan, which would have to be in place within 2 weeks. After the plan is in place and approved, there's a 2-week grace period that Tri-County has to prove the mitigation plan is actually working. Depending upon how that result comes back, we could either move back to level 3, back from level 3 to level 2, or in worst case, we could move to stay at home. For restaurants, if we go back to stay at home, this could mean moving from the 50-50 rules that we have today to 25. That's again a cut back in half of what you could have in your restaurants today. The big problem with the Adams County report is we don't know where these numbers are coming from other than the overall infection rates. So it's just what we have some breakdowns with Jeffco. We don't have that breakdown from Adams County. Adams County right now is one of the hottest counties in the state for COVID infections. Now, we all know what's been going on up in Boulder with the school quarantining a number of off-site residents. Nearly 30 off-campus facilities have been quarantined, as well as 2 large dorms on campus for those with infection. We have seen the same kind of response in Fort Collins at CSU, but that's been primarily on campus results, not off-site. So we don't see quite the spread, but they're containing it pretty well on campus. The issue you have with all of these students is you can't send them home because many of them are not local. So you would have to put them on buses, cars, or planes, and that just then spreads the infection. So trying to contain it in as small area as possible is working. And we also know that last week, Boulder went back to a 10 p.m. curfew on bars serving. I have not had any updates as of this morning on what's going on in Boulder. But I wanted to go back to a short piece. And Juliet, I'm going to bring this down. All right, so our safer at home numbers, again, for level 2 is 175 to 350. The level 3, where we're at today, is the 350 and up. So we are above, 175 is the higher end. But the safer at level 3 is anything above 175 to 350. And with us being at 259, we've seen almost a doubling of numbers on a weekly basis going forward. If we hit 350, we're mandated to go back to stay at home. So again, we're doing everything we can trying to get these numbers back down, but we have to understand where the cause is to start with. And with Adams, we just don't have that. I would tell you that we're doing everything in Westminster we can. We do not know yet until we hear the results of the meeting between Tri-County and CDPHE what effect that would have on any potential openings of additional facilities within the city, including City Hall. Right now, we are still trying to plan to have the council return later this month to City Hall for their meetings. But until we get those results back and the guidance from Tri-County does not mean that we will be able to allow the public in. Again, we're on a wait and see attitude for that. So for right now, that's the best we've got on the COVID numbers. None of it is good in the Westminster area as far as the Adams County. Our Jeffco numbers are encouraging, still a little bit high. And in order to get out of level 2, we have to get down to 75. And that would then allow us also in the Jefferson County side, or allow the county to apply for the protect our neighbor status, which could then allow the expansion of anybody's business, restaurants or whatever in the Jefferson County portion. We're encouraging people to continue to be proactive in what they do. We know that our businesses understand the ramifications of letting people into their business without wearing facial coverings where it's appropriate. Again, we'll always remind that there are people who cannot. If there's a way for you to encourage them to have them shop online, to call in their orders, to have deliveries done, so as not to add that potential of an infection spread, that's what we're encouraging all of our business to do. So we've got about 15 minutes left. If anybody's got any questions, I'll try to answer ones I can. And we did have a reasonable turnout this past Saturday for our shred-a-thon. The numbers were not as big as we normally see, just for a lot of reasons. There had been a shred-a-thon in Thornton back in August, but I think it's still an issue that people are still somewhat concerned about getting out. But we do want to thank all the volunteers, the council members who showed up there. I know Councilor DeMott, Councilor Seymour were there helping out, unloading cars and helping out. We want to thank all the people who came over from Thornton's cadet group for helping out to do that. And of course, the citizens who took the time to come out. I know at one point they had collections for donations into the program that helps find victims or find information on crimes. Crime Stoppers is who I'm thinking of. They had been trying to get that one up. And there was over $10,000 when I was there on Saturday. It had already been collected. So we appreciate all the donations for that. Juliet, that's what I got.
Well, thank you for buffering it with that nice positivity at the end. Good morning to everybody that's hopped on. I see a lot with us. Christy Douglas, thank you for hopping on here as well. I also see Sean Kaiser with us, and Councillor DeMont has also come on here. Brian Dice, thank you for tuning in. We've got a couple of comments that came through, and then I'll probably ask you a couple of additional questions. Some of the content that the mayor has shared with us initially started with some of the Westy Rise efforts related to food insecurity, the grants that are out there for kind of the winterization through our economic development office. Then he moved into figures and numbers from both the Jeffco Public Health Department and then into the Tri-County side, which is mainly our ADCO side of Westminster. Many of those comments I've captured into this broadcast, attempting to get as much of the percentages and numbers as accurate as possible. Know that sometimes I may glitch and give a number that's less than exactly what the mayor has said. So please take his word for it as you watch this video, more so than some of the comments that I try and pull in here. Wayne Anderson is just sending us a quick message of good morning to both you and I, Mayor. The same for our board chair, Brian Dice. Thank you for hopping on here and tuning in with us. We had a question come up, and this question actually came from Tina Silver. She's asking, as it relates to children and schools, if you are aware, Mayor, maybe there's any awareness or concerns about how we feel kids are at risk. She followed up. Oh, that was actually a follow-up to her initial question. Her initial question was, and Tina, I saw that earlier, they asked why COVID test sites would be directly on one of the Westminster high schools of all places. Could we not found a better place? They don't recall being notified. So there's a test site that's right now directly on Westminster, one of Westminster's high school campuses, according to Tina. And that some of the parents were not notified, that there might be a disappointment to see that this test site being at Mountain Range, if this in the students' parking lot, is there anything they can do to feel assured that the children are safe? So it looks like there might be one of the campuses that's being used as the test site in the parking lot. Some concerns from parents that had not known about it prior to it actually taking place on there, and they're asking how they can make sure to keep children safe.
Well, Tina, I appreciate the question. I'm not aware of a test site. The only last big test site that I saw was opened up, again, was Waterworld. I don't know who opened up the test site. If they're there, they had to do it with approval of the school district. Since it's Mountain Range, I would ask you to call the Adams 12 school district office and talk to the superintendent, as I'm sure it wasn't a decision made by the local principal. It probably went through the school district, but I don't know who's doing it at this point. So I'm afraid I can't answer your question. I would, because of the way that I've seen most of these, they're drive-through, people are not out of the cars, they're not interacting with the public. I don't know that there's an issue there, but to make sure you feel comfortable, I would say go to the school district, because the city doesn't have any control over that. That's school property.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Mayor. And I know Tina has shared that she's tried to reach out. It looks like they're not answering. I definitely, I would reiterate what Mayor Atchison is sharing. It sounds like it's not a test site. That's a public administrative test site that's there. And so that's why we can't give you an answer on it. Likely it's an agreement that's been made with the school. And if you've tried to reach out to a school and they're not answering, Tina, then we would direct you to the Adams 12 Board of Education and their superintendent. Happy to post you the contact information for that into the comment section of this broadcast. One of the things that the mayor did highlight earlier on, as it related to Jeffco, we don't have this specifically on the Adams County side, was that on Jeffco, we're able to kind of trace back some of the cases and the spike ups in numbers, and what that breakdown came into, with, you know, the latter few being the work and then the social gathering bleeding back up into the homes and households. And I thought one of the things that he pointed out was, you know, we're not seeing that from the schools necessarily. And so if that gives a little bit of peace of mind, and I hopefully am not taking that out of context, Mayor, when I'm sharing that, but it wasn't one of the significant items that were mentioned as the key to the data point.
You know, and I think it's a good indicator that with the work that the schools are doing, both with a hybrid model, some are in school, probably more so the charter schools, you're seeing more in person than you are virtual. But we have a big mix in Jeffco schools throughout, that you have some schools that have both virtual and in classroom, depending upon the cohort that they have for that day. But I think it's encouraging that right now the numbers are not indicating that the infections are really coming from the schools, but more things that are being done typically around our homes and social gatherings with neighbors and groups. We had one report of a neighboring city, and we did not get the report of exactly who, but one neighborhood blocked off a block-long area and had over 200 people out on a block party. And from the reports we had, no social distancing, no mask coverings, and it was in Adams County. So we can see that these kind of numbers and this kind of activities by people doing these kind of things is not going to help our situation. It's going to make it worse.
Absolutely, I agree with you on that. We have Councillor DeMott has shared some good morning messages both to you and I. I know the mayor has recognized you, Councillor, and Councillor Seymour, and all the other councillors that were able to help with the Shredathon this last weekend. That is a huge event, and I know it was probably not as packed as every year, but I know around the time that it generally was, we were exploding with emails and phone calls about, is this happening? Where is it at? And people look forward to it every year. So I'm glad to see that still took place, even if it was in a smaller type of setting that was there. And Mayor, one of the things that you touched on was the decline in our mask usage, which was another concerning element. We talked about how last week we saw an 83%, then it was 88% compliance, and then between the time that you and I reported that and then this next week, that's gone down to about 76%. And when we look at other factors, right, when we look at mental health or reasonings for people not wearing masks, we should be upward of about 80% or so, factoring in those people that should not be or would not be wearing a mask should they choose. So there's definitely room for improvement on that front, or room to continue to encourage people to keep in mind that social distancing, the mask compliance, and maintaining their hygiene and everything they can do in their capacity. So quick question to you, and this comes kind of left field. So Jeffco, I loved how they had a breakdown and they tried to pull that back to what areas. Why is that not the same on the Tri-County side? I know that Tri-County obviously touches a number of counties, not just Adams County, and so they're dealing with a larger variety, but how can we try and figure where those numbers are coming from ADCO, so we can have something comparable on that side as well?
Well, we have asked last Thursday for that. We just don't have another meeting since last Thursday till this coming week. And we'll see if they provide a further detail. And one of the things I've also asked them is to give me a better idea of the numbers that we're seeing at the Mayoral site. Other than just saying we're testing, can you give me some kind of an idea? So the last verbal number I had, if you go to the Aurora site, it was set up for 1,000 people a day. They were seeing less than 200. If you go to the Mayoral site, it's set up for 2,500 a day, and we were seeing around 500 to 600 a day in the early part of last week. So until this Thursday, we see a better report on the numbers. It's important that we continue to push the testing that's available. And with anything, you can take the test today and be negative and then get infected tomorrow. That's the only bad thing about the way the testing is run and the amount of time that it takes to get it back. So we're continuing to fight this issue of the delay between test and results. And that if you test today, you go around, you infect somebody else, and then you don't get your report for 3 days, you've already done that. So then we have to come back and do the contact tracing. And hopefully you don't have the contact tracing that we're seeing out of the people who are doing these large events, and they really don't know who was there. And especially when we see them on TV with events and hundreds, if not thousands of people, and nobody's social distancing, nobody's carrying that. And then we wonder why our numbers across the United States continue to get worse. The thing with the current results that we're seeing right now, Juliet, is that although we're seeing a high number of people being infected and our positivity rate is up, what's not going up right now is the severity of those infections that require hospitalization. So our hospital numbers are not going up at the same rate. They're up a little, but they're not coming up and near the percentages of jumps that we're seeing in our positivity and infection rates, which is great. That means the number of cases may not be as life-threatening as they could be, but that doesn't mean that they're not still spreading the infection.
Absolutely, and thank you for sharing that. Because I know that's generally a question that's always heard afterward is, what percentage has this gone to the extreme on it? So it's good to see the severity of cases is not increased. It's still to be conscious the fact that we are going up, and that continued numbers that continue to push us up will pull us back as far as reopening and stump our businesses further if they're not able to reopen to the fullest that they need to go. Melania, that is great news. Thank you for tuning in with us and kind of picking up on that as well. And one of the things the mayor highlighted is these gatherings that people are having, but to be mindful at these gatherings, if you choose to have them, we had our gala and did our best to have the social distancing. Once we heard as of Friday morning about some of the Tri-County numbers and this huge uptick that was there, we actually went ahead and pivoted our forums and changed those to a virtual component instead of even just bringing the candidates together. So it wasn't going to be even with public people coming out there, but with hearing the numbers and rising, we know that that's a concern, and change that over to a virtual component. So just doing everything that you can to adjust to the constantly changing situation that we're in, and being mindful that it is constantly changing is something that I think will help us all in the long run. Mayor, you shared a little bit about the senior hub, and that there will be this evening that we have out at the City Park Rec Center where they're providing hundreds of food boxes to folks that are in need or have that food insecurity, along with gift cards. What does that look like as far as who is eligible for it? Or is this a walk-up service that would they need to sign up in advance for that?
I would ask you to refer to the website, Juliet, because I don't have that kind of detail on how they're managing the operation over there.
Excellent. Okay, so the Senior Hub's website is probably where the best place for folks to find out the eligibility on that. Okay, and I will drop that into the section for everybody to know about. So this evening, I presume that there is something on your radar, likely with council.
We actually have
study session.
Well, we have our normal weekly COVID updates. We're continuing to look at information that the council at the retreat a couple of weeks ago asked for follow-up on the budget. We'll be going over that tonight. And then we have an appointment for an independent person to look at the results when the petitions are submitted on the recall, so that we have someone who's not directly tied to the city to review those.
Right. So that is likely coming up, and I'm just typing some of those in so everybody is aware of some of what's happening at the council side. Is there anything else that we want to highlight before I start wrapping this up, Mayor?
Probably right now, I continue to bring this up to everybody. Do what you can to get your neighbors and your friends and your cohorts at work to take this very serious. I don't want to lose one single business because we couldn't get people to help us keep this infection rate down. I don't want to see any restaurant or other business to have to go back to a 25% capacity. I think that could then very well cause a number of our local small businesses to actually have to close up. And none of us are looking at that. For everybody who's in business in the city of Westminster, go to the city website. Look at the opportunities that we have there for you for financial aid. We talked about the Adams County pieces last week about the mortgages and the rental rates programs. Please encourage your employees, whoever you come in contact with, go to the website, take the time to look through the Westy Rise programs to see where there might be an opportunity for you to help a neighbor, help a relative, help a customer, to keep them from losing what they have. So I would refer you to there as often as possible. The most up-to-date information on financial assistance programs that the city's involved at the city website.
Excellent. I've typed a good summary of that, and to try and direct people to definitely see the benefits that are available that our city is pushing out for our businesses, for our residents, and for the overall community. And let's all make sure that we mask up and social distance when we can, and that we support our businesses in doing so, but in being mindful whenever we're going out and being conscious. This it gets us to almost our 30-minute mark, so I just want to thank everybody that's tuned in thus far. Make sure that you share this out with your network so people are aware of these changes that we've had in our community, in our county, and of course, ultimately how that can affect you personally and our businesses as well. If you end up watching this video and it's after we've been live, meaning that you watched it once we're done talking, make sure that you give us the hashtag replay and any questions that you might have that you did not get a chance to ask. I know several of you end up hopping on here like Mike and some others at the last few points of our video, and so I want you to know that this is available to you at any point in time in the video section to watch, replay, ask us any questions through DM, or ask it here on the comment section of the broadcast. We'll be sure to have the mayor answer that as best as we can in a timely manner and transparently for folks and everyone to be aware of. Thank you so much, Parker. Yes, and we will go enjoy our favorite restaurant. We both know that Mayor Atchison and I love Carrabba's, and so definitely we'll be supporting you guys as we can. And of course, John, thank you for tuning in to the broadcast with the mayor and I. We will be back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. for our next broadcast. Generally, our Tuesdays are geared toward our business success series, hear about our local business and what they're doing during this time and how you can help them from a distance. Of course, Mayor Atchison, I appreciate all you do. I know how busy you stay from a day-to-day basis or hourly basis, really. So I appreciate you carving out 30 minutes of your Monday with us to give these updates and keep people informed. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.